buy cookies, I eat just 4 and throw the rest away. But first, I spray them with Raid, so I won't dig them out of the garbage later. Be careful though, because that Raid really doesn't taste that bad. Jeanette Barber. Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is PODSNACKS, episode 005. And PODSNACKS is the weekly podcast of my daily blog, artofthediet.com. Today I am thinking about self-control and my own experience with it. Days when it is in good supply and other days when it just doesn't show up. That's why I thought the quote about spraying Raid on the cookies was such an appropriate one. Who wants to admit that a cookie might be worth extracting from the trash, never mind after spraying it with Raid? I'll tell you who. Someone who knows what it's like to lose control. I know what that feels like. I suspect you do too. I have stopped short of spraying them with Raid, though, but I do know the instinct. You simply want to make sure you don't go looking for them again. Since a lack of self-control is what the world often thinks is the reason someone is fat or an alcoholic, a compulsive gambler, a drug addict, a hoarder, a shopper, you name it. If it's too much food, drinking, drugs, gambling, sex, or shopping, when the punishments exceed the rewards and we keep on doing something, why do we do it? One traditional explanation has been we do it because we simply don't have enough self-control. So I Googled it and came across an article in Forbes which gives 6 secrets of self-control and refers to a study by Martin Seligman, a psychologist, who sampled over 2 million folks with a survey of how they would rate and rank 24 personal characteristics. And self-control was consistently listed at the bottom of these 2 million surveys. In other words, this is a trait many folks feel they don't have or struggle with, or looking on the bright side, simply don't value. Since all 2 million of the sample can't all have addictions, I began to wonder a bit more about the actual chemistry of self-control. This article and others I'll mention today are on the show notes page at www.artofthediet.com/podcast/5. One study by Dr. Baumeister, and this is his description that I'll read you, found that people perform relatively poorly on tests of self-control when they have engaged in a previous, seemingly unrelated act of self-control. He had invited some students to eat fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies and asked others to resist the cookies and munch on radishes instead. Then he gave them difficult geometry puzzles to solve. He found that the students who ate the cookies worked on the puzzles for 20 minutes on average. But the students who had resisted the tempting cookies gave up after an average of 8 minutes. In other words, there seems to be a limited resource of self-control in our brain, and once it's used up, look out. Another study in the late 60s was constructed by Dr. Walter Mischel, and he gave preschoolers the agonizing choice of 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows 15 minutes from now. He actually followed up on these preschoolers decades later and found that the 4-year-olds who waited for 2 marshmallows turned into adults who were better adjusted, less likely to abuse drugs, had higher self-esteem, had better relationships, were better at handling stress, and obtained higher degrees and earned more money. Gulp. I know what group of 4-year-olds I'd have been in. As on some days, still today at age 70, I'm still in that group. So this led me back to the first article with the 6 secrets to self-control. And again, they shall be on the show notes page for you to check out. Because in one of the secrets, he said that what you eat is critical to self-control because your brain burns heavily into stores of glucose when attempting to exert self-control. And if your blood sugar is low from eating too much sugar or a lack of sleep, for example, you are far more likely to succumb to destructive impulses to eat even more sugary foods, which ends up leaving you drained and vulnerable thereafter. Eating something that provides a slow burn for your body, whole grain rice or meat, gives you a longer window of self-control. Wow. Honestly, I'm just tired reading these studies. It's complicated, this self-control thing, and I suspect it's also the reason why the, quote, disease model for alcoholism as well as for obesity tries to steer folks away from simply looking in the self-control direction alone. Self-control/willpower is a chemical reaction and not simply a moral trait. Now, if this is not enough for you, I'll be covering the other contributor to low stores of self-control in episode 006 next week. It's titled Distractibility. If we have the attention span of a mayfly, which I do, controlling ourselves is a daily challenge. I've been reading the work of Matthew Crawford, who is described as a philosopher/mechanic. You have to love that. He's written several books and essays. His latest is The World Beyond Your Head on Becoming an Individual in the Age of Distraction. Now, if I can just pay attention long enough to read it, I'll have tips for next week's episode. As always, if you have to accomplish something right this minute and your only choices are a radish or a chocolate chip cookie, science tells you to pick the cookie. Now, I don't have a PhD in neuroscience, but I could have told you that myself. See you next week.